Okay, Derek, we know you're not a big social media guy, and I don't think there's much on social media that you miss. But every so often, one of the things I enjoy is you get like completely out of the blue a crazy Tony Gwynn stat. And who
Mhm.
doesn't love kind of a crazy Tony Gwynn stat? And
And what's
just
crazy is we can keep coming up with more crazy Tony Gwynn. He was that freaking good.
And this is one of those that's very, very just out of the blue, random. From Codify at Codify Baseball, they've constantly got lots of information. A good baseball follow. It's a picture of Miguel Cabrera and Tony Gwynn, and it says add 33 hits and 1,068 at bats to Tony Gwynn's career totals, and you get Miguel Cabrera's career numbers. 33 hits, 1,068 at bats. So if Tony Gwynn had a 30 batting average over
I was gonna say,
1,000 plus at bats,
33 divided by 1,068 is and 03. It's a 31, an
hmm,
031 batting average.
and he'd be right up there with Miguel Cabrera.
If he was Manny Machado in the wild card series, then
Wow. Wow.
I'm sorry, that was
That
fair,
was
accurate, but probably unfair. Okay.
sadly. So, anyways, I thought that was interesting. Another one of those they all kind of melt my brain a little bit whenever I see them, and that's one of them. A great hitter, an all timer in Miguel Cabrera. But when you think about what Tony Gwynn did and the rate he did it at, it is truly mind blowing. So that was a fun one.
Yeah, it's wild. It's just absolutely wild how good that man was. Obviously, Mickey's got him in the power numbers, but yeah, you're talking about a guy who was a no doubt surefire first ballot Hall of Famer in Miguel Cabrera, and he would still. Tony got the ball in play that much better than that guy. It's incredible.
Yeah. The one Miguel Cabrera highlight I think about often, which was kind of a Tony Gwynnish, like in terms of the bat to ball skills. And there's that famous Randy Johnson where he's stretched out over the plate, one hand off the bat, and still makes contact. I remember watching Sports Center years ago, and Miguel Cabrera, they were trying to intentionally walk him, and he swung on one of the intentional pitches when he was with the Marlins and hit into the outfield for a single. I was like, I love
Singled
that.
up the middle on an intentional walk attempt, right? Because he saw. I remember him talking about that. He saw the first pitch. Like the pitcher was just kind of like doing his, going about his business, whatever, but he wasn't really like getting it outside the strike zone. So it was basically like an 80-mile-an-hour fastball coming in, and Mickey knew where it was going to be. So it was like, if he gets that close again, I'm going to take a hack at it. And sure enough, it came in like probably 8-9 inches off the plate, and he was like, "Screw this!" and just slapped it in the center field. It was great.
One of the things I do miss about them actually throwing the pitches in the intentional walk, but that is a conversation for another time. We have a bit of a grab bag almost type of episode. Lots of kind of different little notes. You got a chance to also hear from Adrian Morahone and Ruben Yeblek. Craig Stammen spoke. Mason Miller also today on Foul Territory. Some kind of rumors, that sort of thing. And one big story that Davy Sports wants us to get to right away, and we will. Kind of more looking towards the future. So we'll discuss all that. Thanks as always to OGs, the sponsor of the On Friar podcast. Appreciate all they do for On Friar and the NBC7 Sports Wrap team, including Football Night in San Diego, the local slice. We thought last Sunday was our last episode of Football Night, and then the folks in charge of scheduling and programming the NFL did us a solid. NBC has the last game on Sunday between the Rams and the Bears. And so we will have one last edition of Football Night for you NFL fans Sunday at 8 o'clock. And so check that out. Us, Todd Strain, Rich Ornberg, Greg Camrio, should be a good time.
Yeah, but we were all, hey, congratulations on a great season. Well done. Bye, everybody. Oops. We were a little,
never mind.
Some premature jocularity on our behalf there. My bad.
There you go. And so, yes, if you need a place to watch the games, of course, beforehand, OG is a great spot to do it. A great menu, great place to hang, awesome beer list, a bunch of locations around San Diego County. So huge shout out, as always, to OGs. Without further ado, the walk-up music. It is the On Fire podcast brought to you by NBC7. He is Derek Togerson. I am Darnay Tripp. Pleased to be with you on this Thursday afternoon. Bunch of different topics to hit on. And but look, when we get a request in the chat, people interacting with the show, we love the interaction. We love when folks are with us, sharing their thoughts, asking questions, and all of that, including one comment on Facebook. Padres need help. We will discuss that,
Yep.
of
Agreed.
course. But we'll start. Look, Davey came in with a request, said, let's get the Bloom nonsense, his words, out of the way first. And so this episode, talking a little bit about some of the questions for now, of course, month away from spring training, and one thought ahead to the future that continues to arise. And it rose again in the form of a Barry Bloom piece published yesterday, Wednesday, on Forbes, what Joe Lacob's interest in the Padres means for the team's future. And I was planning on saving this for later in the episode. Derek, I don't know if you've seen this piece.
Oh yeah, Barry sent it to me.
But Davey requested it, so I said, all right, let's just go for it. We spoke a few episodes back about the possibility of Joe Lacob being interested. I guess he told the San Francisco Chronicle he's, quote, always interested in looking into new opportunities, and buying the Padres might be something he would explore. And Barry went on to speculate with some of the financial hardships and the challenges that the Padres face, the inner workings at Petco, city ownership versus organizational ownership, what that all means, and how long they are kind of locked into that location, market size, San Diego versus Bay Area, and obviously Joe Lacob, being connected and established in the Bay Area the way that he is. His overall point being, you can't rule out the possibility that if Joe Lacob is the individual that buys the Padres, you cannot rule out the possibility that he might be interested in moving the Padres for these reasons. It feels like a long shot, but it is once again a topic amongst Padres fans. And I will say a frustrating one, because when the Shield stuff popped up last year, it came up. When John Seiler and everybody said, we're going to sell, it came up again. And it just seems to be that kind of thorn in our side that continues to arise and seemingly will continue to do so until you have an ownership that either with their words or their actions makes it plain that they are here to stay in San Diego.
Yeah, so I talked to Barry about this, and I've known Barry for 25 years. All right, and he is always looking big picture, and as he told me, this is a possibility. And as I told him, yes, it is a possibility, but it is a pretty damn far ways away from being a probability. Because yes, could Joe Lacob move the team? Yes, he could, but not until after 2033. That's when the lease at Petco Park expires. By then, you got to figure that a lot of those financial things will have a big chance to work themselves out, this, that, and whatnot. The Padres are making a whole lot of money with things like the rodeo being there, or with the holiday spectaculars, or with the links at Petco Park, or with all the concerts. That's the reason they renovated Gallagher Square, is to have concerts that are going to be 25, 30 concerts at Petco Park this year. So they're finding other ways to generate revenue. The city's not going to want to get rid of that. Why would Lacob, from a business perspective, and he's a business guy, he understands. I can't fathom how anyone would look at 42,000 a night at Petco Park, in an absolute gem of a stadium that is consistently ranked by independent sources as one of the top 3 to 5 ballparks, if not number one overall in all of Major League Baseball, with an engaged city where you're the only show in town, and move it to somewhere else. That doesn't make any sense to me from a business perspective. You got built-in butts and seats here. Oakland had their chance, and they didn't really. I mean, when the team was good, sure, they were there. You got to build a brand new stadium in Oakland. There will always be second fiddle to the Giants in the Bay Area. When he was looking to buying the Angels, when Artie Moreno was kicking around the idea of selling, was he going to move the Angels up to Oakland? No. So why on earth would he think about moving the Padres?
And if there's a franchise, if you're talking about kind of like the buy-in and the investment from a fan standpoint and team success, like Angels would seem more ripe, especially with the Dodgers being right up the road for relocation than the Padres.
Correct. The Padres. So let me just say this in as plain of terms as I can possibly come up with. if an owner buys the Padres, Joe Lacob or insert name here, and their intention is to then move the Padres, then I have absolutely no idea how that individual made their money in the first place, because they are stupid. There's no business sense. Give me a good business reason to move this franchise from this city, from this engaged fan base, from this weather, from that ballpark, there's no reason. So, and the other part of that too is, to move, you have to get 75% vote from the other owners. I can guarantee you will not find 75% of owners that want to get out of San Diego, that do not want to make this trip every year, that do not want to have the winter meetings here once every 5-6 years since we're in the rotation. They want to be here. Okay. Oakland is not an attractive area for Major League Baseball right now. San Francisco owns that place. San Diego is where baseball is and where it needs to stay. Plus, again, just like MLS with the San Diego FC wants to be close to Mexico, so does Major League Baseball. Right across the border, we're right there. Have a great relationship with Tijuana. So yes, if anybody does try to buy the Padres with the idea of moving them, that I will never understand. I simply will not ever understand, because it makes no business. There's no good business reason to do such.
Yeah. All very, very well said. And Marcus in the chat saying, it's for clicks. Please talk about the Padres. Skip this nonsense. Padres aren't going anywhere. So I don't want to kind of belabor the point, but has been a talker the last couple of days. And so I feel like we need to at least touch on it. And as far as the finances go, it's like, yes, things have been tight for the Padres now, but we don't know how they're going to be operating financially, 5-10 years from now. And there's a chance maybe they aren't as aggressive a spender, or there's a chance that maybe from a media rights standpoint, it's a more favorable situation. They're pocketing more money than they are now, when they are in as really a dire situation as imaginable. They aren't the only ones dealing with kind of the problems that have stemmed from the RSNs and teams looking for a viable broadcast partner. And so that's something Major League Baseball is going to have to go in and address for a number of teams. And so there are some here and now issues that are leading to their the financial challenges that they're facing that could evolve and hopefully improve in the years to come. So we will see. But I think the unsettling part of this is, like, somebody on Twitter was like, you can go ahead and, you have some information, you can disprove this. Problem is, it's all speculative, and we can't really disprove it until we find out. Joe Lacob might not be the owner of the Padres. You know what I mean? Like, that's first and foremost. Joe Lacob is just a
chance you won't, right?
Yeah. And so this is all contingent on Joe Lacob, not necessarily other owners might have their motivations. But that's what's kind of frustrating about these conversations, is there's no real way to say, like, this absolutely 100% is not happening, even if we believe that this is probably absolutely not happening, just because when a franchise changes hands, you're beholden to whatever their dreams and aspirations are, aside from kind of the vote and that sort of thing, whatever, say, ownership in Major League Baseball might have.
The second that prospective owner steps foot at Petco Park on a Tuesday
Very
night,
first question.
Yeah, on a Tuesday night, and sees 40,000 people there losing their minds, they will go, I ain't going nowhere. The product, and by the way, kudos to the Friar faithful, because after the Chargers left, they went all in on the Padres, and they've been all in on the Padres. And that is the reason that this is never going to happen, because any owner who wants to have that walks in and sees that stadium and feels that energy and the electricity and what you are seeing and the return at the gate, they're going, where else can you find it? You're not going to get that in Oakland. You're not going to get that in Salt Lake City. You're not going to get that in Nashville. You're not going to get that in San Antonio. Insert name of other major market that people think they can move a baseball team to here. It doesn't exist. It will never be created the same way that it is here. It's not possible.
When I thought this is where you're going, when that owner, does show up on the podium, the first question might be why, or, how's it feel, and this sort of thing. Then the next 5 questions will be about relocation. And can you promise that that will not be the case? That's going to be something that they have to address right away. And it's because you have a passionate fan base that's invested and loves this team and wants to be here. And they've been hurt before and they want to make sure they're not hurt again. And so more power to them. And I can certainly understand why anything along those lines triggers a reaction that we've seen from Barry Bloom's piece the last 24 plus hours.
You'd need 22 other owners to say, yes, go ahead and move. Okay, yeah. 22 out of 29. How? Who's doing that? Yeah, it's not happening. It's simply not happening. In fact, there was going to be, until Peter Seidler unfortunately passed away, there was a large group of people who were going to vote against the A's move. They might not have gotten the 75% they needed to go to Las Vegas. Baseball owners inherently don't like movement like that. When's the last time a Major League Baseball team moved cities? Before the A's obviously going to Vegas.
And the Las Vegas Athletics can't even secure the trademark for
they have to change their name. You should rebrand anyway. All right, that's just
you should rebrand.
They called themselves out in Philadelphia and Kansas City and Oakland. Change it, right?
Yeah,
just change it. So I'm trying to think the last time a Major League Baseball team relocated.
Well, Nationals from Montreal.
Yeah, Montreal to Washington, and that was 2014, 2015.
It was before that.
And then I'm looking it up right now.
Well, while you're doing that, Davey got on this topic, so I'll give before that was the Senators Rangers 50 years prior to that. Davey got us on this track. I'll let Davey have the last word. Remember, 200% of owners wanted to get out of Oakland. Oakland hasn't gotten better to change owners' minds since then. Thanks for addressing this BS. On to important stuff. So
2005, Montreal. And by the way, the Expos had been flailing in Montreal for years before they finally approved the move. And before that, Seattle Pilots moved to Milwaukee in 1970. Okay. It's been a while.
All right, let's talk baseball pre-spring training, roster things. We got Cam in the chat talking about Campy. Baseball season's here. We're talking Campy, Derek. Is he really going to have a chance to be the backup, or could the Padres look for another catcher if affordable? Also, what happened to Brian Hoeing? There's been no chatter on him.
Okay, first part of that, Campy is going to absolutely have the chance to be the backup catcher. I'm not sure he is going to take advantage of that chance. Again, out of minor league options, he might be one of those DH kind of candidates. And also, I had kind of a weird thought in the back of my head. What if they tried moving him to first base on a part-time basis? Teach him how to play the cold corner for a little while. See if again, this is all contingent on if his bat plays, you need to get him at bats. Him and Gavin Sheets as a right-left first base platoon might not be the worst thing in the world. So that if they're looking at places to put him where he might be able to get more at bats, that would probably be a spot. So I think the Padres will eventually, if it's Blake Hunt or somebody else, will eventually have another catcher, a more primary backup. Yes, he will have a chance to be the backup catcher. Brian Hoeing is a ghost. I have no idea. I couldn't begin to tell you. We heard about the shoulder last year. He was throwing. He was going to come back. He never actually made it all the way back to the rotation or to the bullpen, the major league roster, and nothing. I've heard literally nothing. Now, also, granted, that's also probably because everyone else in the Padres bullpen gets so much chatter. You're talking about Mason Miller. We've been spent most of our offseason talking about are Mason Miller or David Morgan or Adrian Morejon all going to move to the rotation. You're going to trade Jeremiah Estrada. Oh, my God, you're going to trade Mason Miller. Who's not be on the block? Jason Adams going to come back from his injury. A lot of that focus has been on the guys who are there that are going to make it the best bullpen in the game. So Brian Hoeing is a luxury at this point. I mean, I hate to say, I don't want to phrase it as he hasn't been missed because that sounds like, like we don't care if he comes back or not. But he's a guy who really, they haven't needed him yet. He's an extra luxury piece. So we haven't really been like, boy, if we can get Hoeing back, well, then that's going to really make the difference. So I think he's almost been kind of forgotten about, and we really haven't checked in on him.
I can't be coming up. Makes me think of Dan Zimborski, who we've had on a long time ago in the past, does the Zips projections for Fangraphs. Dropped the Padres last week, and I've been meaning to check it out. And I finally looked at it this morning just to see if there's anything that popped out. And again, these are just projections. But he's got Campy at 13 homers this year, a 99 OPS plus, which is just a hair below league average, but fifth highest on the team as it stands, a couple points ahead of Jay Cronenworth, Xander Bogaerts, Gavin Sheets, well ahead of Sung-Mun Song and Freddy Fermin. And so maybe a surprisingly, OPS of, let's see, 720, I think. And so maybe a more favorable projection for Luis Campusano.
And how many at-bats does he have from getting?
Might have expected. Oh, that's a good question. Comparable at-bats, 441. That's below obviously the main guys, but compared to actually more at-bats than Freddie Fermin. Interestingly enough, I don't think it's gonna pan out that way, but just seeing, the numbers being favorable, we'll see if it plays out that way. Obviously, I think we all believe that he needs to get more of an opportunity than he has to this point. Obviously, a sensational season last year at AAA. It seemed like Mike Shildt just wasn't a fan of the guy, didn't trust the guy, and as a result, he was nowhere to be found despite raking for El Paso. I feel like we've said this is the last chance for Luis Campusano. This really feels like the last chance for Luis Campusano, and I hope that he gets it and it's a real opportunity. And it would, it's the team sure could use him. Now, hitting from the right side with a lineup that's got this kind of recent injection of lefties with Gavin Sheets and Jackson Merrill, Luis Arraez last year, Ryan O'Hearn. You could use somebody from the right side of the plate. And so if that is at first base, DH, catcher, consistent at bats to see what he can really do, like I think at least count me in that group that would like to see that.
See, this is where projections for me fall short, because how does Dan not know Fermin is a starting catcher? What these projections all do is they base it on what you've done previously in your career, right? And Fermin's never been the everyday starter because there was a first ballot Hall of Famer named Salvador Perez, who he was sitting behind for his entire career in Kansas City. Now he's finally going to get that chance to be the everyday starting catcher. So he's never been an everyday starter for an entire season. He's got that now, and as we saw last year, he's really damn good defensively, and he brings a little more of a bat than I think people realized. He's not going to have massive power numbers, but he had the hit to put the Padres into the postseason on that Monday night against Milwaukee. He had a couple really big hits in the wild card series. He's a kid he's going to surprise a lot of people this year. So I think the projections rely so much on prior or past performance that they don't take into consideration opportunity, change of scenery, familiarity. They don't take into consideration a lot of things that are inherent human traits instead of just putting everything into a number machine.
Yeah, no, I get that for sure. He's also, as far as the bullpen goes, little less excited about, David Morgan, obviously the top end of the bullpen. I think that's one of those things where it's like, watching David Morgan feel pretty good about what the potential is there. So we'll see where that shakes out. Obviously very, very high on Mason Miller, and Mason was on foul territory today and talked a little bit about WBC and the potential of like moving to a starter's role. I think at this point in the offseason we've heard enough to know that's not going to be the case, but it was interesting kind of hearing his perspective on it, because it's all been through the lens of kind of Craig Stammen and AJ Preller to this point, but him saying like it's hard to move away from a role when you've had as much success doing it as he has as a closer, as a high leverage reliever. And so I think there's part of him that is, and I think he even used the word like exciting to kind of consider that. But I think at this point, given the success that he's had, content to stay in that lane, which I think makes sense for this team, especially now you bring Michael King back. The rotation has stabilized a little bit, less kind of in a desperate spot. Obviously need another body in there, but don't have to kind of break glass in case of emergency, which I think moving Miller or Morgan or Morahone would have been.
Yeah, and Mason said the same kind of thing. He was on the MLB Network with our friend Matt Vasgersian when he made the announcement that he was joining the WBC team, and he said, very much the same thing. Where he was like, is it cool to think about? Yes, but man, when you're doing what we're doing in this role, it's kind of hard to mess with the formula. Which, and I think what I said was, we kept on considering everything about this except what does Mason Miller want? That was one part of the equation we just kind of assumed or didn't think about. So his preference is to stay in the role that he's in, and if that's what he wants to do, that's where he's comfortable. By all means, keep doing what you're doing because you're pretty damn good at it.
Yeah. And on the topic of the rotation, a couple interesting tidbits that have popped up. I believe it was Rosenthal in The Athletic talking about kind of the free agency market, and I guess the Padres signaling to teams or to free agents and their agents, like, we're not quite ready to move yet. And so maybe that's leading people to believe that there's a precursor, which could come in the form of a trade that would maybe open up some funds. The Nick Pivetta piece has been brought up at various points as, given the way his number has gone from 2 million last year to like 20 million this year, obviously an attractive asset given the season that he had, but then you're creating another hole in the rotation by parting with him. So it's, does that make sense? But, it does make you wonder, like, do they feel like a trade of some sort to clear up some money is going to be the first step in then being more aggressive on, the free agency market?
Pivetta is an interesting case because you're not just trading him. The reason they look to trade him potentially is, free up a little bit of cash. Yeah, bring in some more assets, but more than that, if he has anything resembling a year this year like he had last year, he's opting out. So you're not getting him for the next 2 years like you thought you might be doing. So I really believe that the reason
as well.
What's that?
Which could be the case with Michael King as well.
Precisely, yes. So now you're talking about two other holes in the rotation. You don't know if Darvish is coming back. So if you're going to trade Nick Pivetta, the reason behind it is we need to get another arm in here that's a little bit cheaper, but also more controllable for the longer term because we know we have a hole that's going to be created next year anyway. So that's why they would look to do that, is they know it's like an expiring contract. They know they're only going to have him for one more year, and those are the kinds of guys you typically look at as, all right, we're going to roll the dice with them, roll with them one more season, or if we can, if you dangle that carrot out there and all of a sudden you get a lot of response, it makes you think, oh, okay, there are teams that really want this guy and can really use this guy. We can make our overall product better for the longer term by trading him. So they're not shopping Nick Pivetta. What they're doing is letting teams know, like, hey, if you're interested, he could be had. How interested are you? So it would only be Darnay to bring back a less expensive option this year and for the next year or perhaps the next 2 years. That's the only reason this makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cost and controllability, Derek. These are very important factors. It's a tightrope that the Padres have been walking for a while now, and it seems like it's been a lot of guys that are like, all right, you might have them for 1 or 2 years, but beyond that, you're going to have to pay them or you're going to have to trade them.
Yep.
And so controllable arms, those are nice to have, and those have been hard to come by for the Padres. It seems like it's this revolving door from the Michael Wakas and Seth Lugos, Blake Snells, Dylan Ceases, almost the Michael Kings, now Nick Pivetta. And so that's, like you said, that's exactly how that trade would make sense. And then I wonder, like, how much urgency there is to make a deal like that if they feel like that's what they need to do to kind of fill in holes elsewhere.
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, if you don't let it be known that you might be interested, then you're never going to know what you might be able to get. So just showing teams that you could be talked into doing something. as long as if you have an open communication with your player and you're telling them, listen, this is what we're doing with this. We're not trying to get rid of you. It's not an indictment of you or how we feel about you. This is simply business as usual. Then you're kind of dumb to not at least go out there and kick the tires on some stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of kicking the tires, there's one, and I do not necessarily always know what to do with the Hector Gomez rumors. Hector works hard, puts a lot of stuff out there, and one he put out there, and so curious what your thoughts of this, just as an option, as a potential avenue, less so like, do we think this is going to happen? I have no stinking idea. But Hector posted the other day, Padres have emerged as a strong contender for a trade with the Brewers to acquire star right-handed pitcher Freddy Peralta, who Milwaukee has apparently been dangling. Freddie is on the first of back-to-back club options for $8 million, so he comes at a lower number than where Pivetta is, and obviously where King is now. Really anybody in the rotation other than Randy Vasquez and JP Sears. And so this is his 29-year-old season, 30 next year. Oh, I'm sorry, I had that wrong. He's in the final year, 2026. I still can't wrap my head around the fact that we are in the year 2026. It's the year 2026. Last year, $8 million. And so that obviously would have some impact on his trade value because you have him just for 1 year. But you have a guy that's been a reliable arm on a palatable number.
I like that a lot. And maybe that is the reason that AJ is telling teams we're not quite ready to move on this yet, because they make a trade instead. If we don't land Peralta, now we're ready to move on somebody else. So maybe it's not an issue of freeing up money as much as it is, can we address this in another manner? And that would be through the trade. Peralta's good. He's really, really good. He's going to have several other teams trying to pry him out of Milwaukee. This is nothing new for Milwaukee. They just do this. They do this almost every year. They traded, who they traded a couple of years ago to Baltimore.
Oh, Corbin Burns.
Thank you. Yes, right.
Josh Hader, Devin Williams.
What are you doing, Devin Williams, Josh Hader? They have really not a whole lot of loyalty to a lot of their arms because they just keep on producing more arms in that organization. So not at all surprising that they would be talking about getting rid of a guy like Peralta, because they know that they're going to get more assets back than what they're sending out. So the question then becomes, what's it going to take to get them? And Milwaukee had led Major League Baseball in wins last year, so I'm not sure how much more they need or where they're looking to improve. Maybe it's prospects. I don't know. But if they want to do it, the Padres would be, every team in baseball would be dumb to not say, so what are you looking for here? Let's see if we can line up on something. And if it is the Padres who are trying to do that, I'm not sure where they're finding the prospect capital. Maybe it is a Jeremiah Estrada kind of situation, deal from the bullpen. I don't know, but I like the idea of that guy being in this rotation a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting when you can kind of consider the dominoes. Because then, you'd end up in the same position, but if you trade for Freddy Peralta, then deal a Nick Pivetta, you're saving yourself a decent amount of money, ending up in this,
whatever you bring back, right?
Yeah, and then ending up in the same spot in terms of your roster build, and then you have that money to use for a first baseman or for your fifth starter or Chris Bassett or whoever it ends up being. So that's interesting. Over the course of the last 3 years, Peralta averaging 172 innings, 204 strikeouts, 3.40 ERA, WHIP 1.13. Two-time All-Star, was fifth in the Cy Young vote in 2025.
He just doesn't miss starts. He's made 95 starts the last 3 years, 30+ starts a season. He's durable and he's good. Like this is a guy who is going to fill up the strike zone. He's going to give you a chance to win every single time he takes the ball. And I like that about that. Just give him a chance.
In considering trade possibilities and trade chips, there was one thing. Craig Stammen was also on foul territory this week, and he was talking about Sung-Mun Song and just what they see in him and options for him. And obviously his primary position is Manny Machado's position, so we're not going to see him there every single day. second there is second base, but he said, we're going to try him out at first base and left field as well. And maybe this is just me reading too far into things, but I'm like, okay, if they believe that he and they spoke very highly of him, his ability to have an impact, and ability to kind of make that transition from the KBO to Major League Baseball, which we know is not an easy one. And we saw Ha-seong Kim do it, and it wasn't really until 2022 and certainly 2023 where he kind of came into his own. But he had moments certainly that first season. But if he's an option, I wouldn't say as an everyday first baseman, but you talk about left field, if they like what they see from him at left field, Ramon Laureano is another guy that has been brought up just in terms of speculation as possible trade pieces because of his value, the way he performed last year. I think people's belief that that is sustainable and a favorable contract.
That's the thing about Laureano is the sustainability aspect, is he's never been able to put together a season like the one he had last year, let alone a couple in a row. Now you'd like to think that he's one of those guys who maybe he's just a late bloomer, and it just, when it clicked for good because the physical skills are still there. Maybe it just took him a while to figure out the game from a mental standpoint, at least the offensive part of the game. So you're really not sure what you're getting there, but at $6.5 million, you're more than willing to let it play out and see if he's going to be that guy again. So that makes all the sense in the world. I think more so than anything, they want to get Moon's bats in the lineup, so Song's bat in the lineup. And to do that, you're going to need a fourth outfielder. You're going to need a backup infielder. You need your super duper utility guy who can play, 5-6 different positions. He can play everywhere on the infield and two spots, and then the two corner outfield spots, right? So that's a guy you can look at and go, yeah, we put him out there. If he's hitting, great, we'll find a spot for him. But also that gives everybody the chance to get a day off at some point. Mm-hmm. He can spell the first baseman. He can spell Manny at third, give him a DH day. He can spell even Xander at short. He can do a lot of these different things. He can spell Laureano and left. He can spell Toddy and right. He can give you chances to not drop off defensively too much while giving guys some time to stay off their feet a little bit longer. That's really what they're looking for. I doubt it's for any kind of hey, do we have a replacement for Laureano so it frees us up to trade him? They like having Laureano around a lot. This is much more of let's see if he can handle it, because then that changes the way we construct our bench.
Yeah, that is definitely the logical way to view it, unless the tinfoil brained way to view it. That makes complete sense. There's also the Gavin Sheets part of it as well, because you already have a lefty hitting guy that can show up in left field when you need him to. And so is that another indicator that we're going to be seeing Gavin Sheets a lot more at first base?
One would hope. Because Gavin worked his tail off last year, and by the end of the year, he was just about a league average left fielder. He was not a natural outfielder. He played it and he gave it the best he had. He really, and credit to David Macias too for working with him as much as he has. He was busting his tail to figure out how to be a good defensive outfielder, and he got just to about league average. He was well below that to start. He's much more of a natural first baseman. That's what he played. And he played there in college, but there in high school. He's got a lot more reps at first base. Plus, he's just big. He's big and moves. He looks like a first baseman. Right? He's got the body free. He's got the body type. He's left-handed. He's got the whole thing. So I think that's if he puts together an offensive year like he had last year, give that guy 500 at bats and 420 of them come at first base, I think you're on to something.
I'm not saying this is good or that I even want this. I'm saying it would be entertaining and it would have my attention if you started the year with a rotation at first base that was Gavin Sheets, Luis Campusano, and Sung-Mun Song. I'm at least locked in to what they're doing at first and what they're doing when they come out of the plate. And we could get a month in the season and say, blow this up. This is not working. But we've seen teams that are just like this position catcher last year until Freddy Peralta came around. Mind-numbingly disinteresting. That did not Diaz, Maldonado, respect to those guys, that didn't give you certainly no confidence, but a whole lot of excitement. I can't wait to see what this guy does. At least with Luis Campusano, you're okay, there's that curiosity. I'm pulling for the guy. I want to see him do well. That would be very compelling to me at first base. I have no idea if it would be worth a darn, but you would have my attention. Who's there each day? What are they doing? How do they look defensively? And obviously, what do they do at the plate?
I agree with you there. That would be that would be fun. That would be really. I mean, here's the thing, no team really wants to go into a season with a platoon at first base, a place that's so prototypically a power providing position. But if you're gonna do it, go all in and do it that way. And then throw Jake in there too while you're at it. It's a four-headed, it's a hydra of players at first base where you're just going, we don't know who we're gonna have there on a day-by-day basis. We're gonna completely base it on matchups and who's hot. Why the heck not?
One guy who will not be at first base for the Padres is Nolan Arenado. Mm-hmm. He is now with the D-backs.
Correct.
With the Cardinals taking on a bunch of that salary, and there was also the report that the Padres were into those conversations, involved in those conversations. It sounded like maybe the finances of it, even though Arenado's on a lower number than he would have been with the Cardinals, maybe too rich for their blood. To which I say, I think it's fine that they missed out on that.
Yes. Love Nolan Arenado. He is not the same player that he was when he was with the Rockies in the National League West, where he was winning 10 consecutive gold gloves. I think half of those were platinum gloves, robbing Padres of base hits left and right, diving into walls to make plays. He's not quite that guy. Now, is he going to do better in Arizona than he did in St. Louis? Very likely so, yes. Back in the division, he knows very well, a more hitter-friendly ballpark. But yeah, he's not that guy. Although I would absolutely love, because the two best defensive third basemen of this generation are Manny Machado and Nolan Arenado. Having those two guys on the same team, because that was always the debate whenever the Rockies would come to town. We talked to those guys about, hey, can't say which one's better. And how much do you like watching that other guy play? And they're all like, yeah, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. So it's it would be fun to see those two guys on the corners at the same time. But at the same time, which guy do you move off of third? Both have both getting older, both have slightly declining defensive skill sets. Whose ego is lower that would move him over to first base? Is Nolan Arenado. Manny's not moving.
No. At this stage and the struggles that Arenado has had, in recent years, I think that makes perfect sense. Steve says, I wouldn't want to watch Campy at first. Maybe in spring training. Let's see how it goes in spring training first.
You never know. Is he a great defensive catcher? No. Does he know how to pick balls in the dirt? Absolutely, he does.
You don't have to frame at first base. You just got to catch it.
Yeah, exactly. See?
Davey says, get Nathaniel Lowe for first and Rhys Hoskins to platoon with Sheets at DH, or Rhys to play first. And I was looking at Spotrac, his current calculated market value, their estimate is at 2 years, $14 million. So 7 per. Look, I've been a Rhys Hoskins supporter for a while, so that's one that I would not be mad about. After he spent last year in Milwaukee, back on the market, I think that could be cool. Last year, 748 OPS, 108 OPS plus, 12 home runs. A down year compared to what he did at his peak. 2022 with the Phillies. But
Padres fans remember what he did in that National League Championship Series against the Padres.
Yeah.
How could you forget? He destroyed Padres pitching in that series. And then remember, after that, it was 2023, he had the injury. Spring training injury, missed the entire season. And then he went to Milwaukee, and he had 2 really down years, especially by his standards. I'm wondering if that injury, if he's over that somehow, now you're talking. As a guy who gets on base, draws a lot of walks, not going to hit, probably at this point in his career, not going to hit for a truckload of power anymore, but still better than what they've had. Plus, what I can tell you about him is he's a great clubhouse guy. And you know how much I love the clubhouse thing. Like he's a really good clubhouse guy. People in that Philly clubhouse, like they were sickened when he went down with that injury. Not because they lost the player, but because they lost the guy. Like they really did root for him. So he got a standing ovation in Philly's first time back with Milwaukee. And Darnay, you of all people know how rough Philly fans are. if Philly fans are going to give you a standing ovation when you're wearing a different team jersey, yeah,
they love to see guys like that come back. I mean, even going back to Donovan McNabb, and as bad as that situation was, he still got an ovation when he came back to the Lynx. So
yeah, if you're pushed out by the team, then they love you. If you leave on your own accord, Scott Rowland, wear a helmet at all times.
An interesting tidbit about Rhys Hoskins. You remember when he came into the league and just set it on fire, had a 14-game stretch with 11 homers, a 10.20 slug. And that was 2017, summer of 2017. I had been dating my now wife, Laura, for about 8 months at that point. We were doing long distance, came down for a visit. I actually had a buddy of mine who was in town at the same time, big baseball fan. He's like, hey, the Phillies are in town. We should go to a game. It's like, yeah, it's great. At that point, summer of 2017, you could get a ticket, which we did, like second row left field for about like $30 day of. Can't do that anymore, Derek. But he was like, hey, Rhys Hoskins is here. Let's see what this young guy was all about. All this excitement. He hit 2 homers in that game at Petco Park. First 3 home runs of his career at Petco Park. So it only makes sense for him to be a Padre at some point. And he would fill a need. Righty back, can play first base. Like you said, great clubhouse guy. He's played in the World Series. I think he'd be a really competitive guy. I think he'd be a good addition.
I like it. And he actually went to Jesuit High School up in Sacramento, which was one of my rival high schools.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Let's see. Padres talk chiming in. It's been very disappointing. Record attendance, and the best we can do is keying on a 1-year deal on Manny and Bogey's last season in their prime.
Is it their last season in their prime?
We don't know that.
Yeah, and King's technically a 3-year deal. I know. He's really, it's a very good chance he can opt out after one. But listen, they've got a lot go. They have another 27 days before pitchers and catchers report. Everyone's acting like it's the end of the world. You know, pitchers and catchers report on February 11th. It's currently January 16th. So give us some time. There's plenty of time for us to bemoan what has or has not happened, right? Remember they signed Nick Pivetta on the day of first full squad workouts last year. So there's a lot. They traded for Dylan Cease the day they were flying to Korea. All right, they're going to be okay. More things will be happening. There are a lot of free agents out there. There are a lot of trades that need to be made still. It's things. This is the ebb of it, right? The flow will be coming in about 3 weeks here or so. Then you're going to see a lot more player movement. Don't freak out.
Yeah. Another thing from Stammen that was interesting, you know, he's talking about his relationship with Mike Shildt and somebody that he's still talking to on a regular basis and getting us some insight on like, okay, what do I need to be thinking about a few weeks from spring training? And it sounds like, you know, those conversations have continued and they definitely want to, you know, maintain kind of the character and the vibe in the clubhouse and all that. You know, some areas where Shildt had some success and kind of changed the culture a little bit in the clubhouse. So he goes from talk to Shildt all the time, really trust what he has to say, to also saying, Luis Arraez, man, there's not too many other people I'd rather have at the plate, you know, a couple outs, man in scoring position than Luis Arraez. And I'm like, oh no, I'm connecting dots I don't want to be connecting.
He's talking to Shildt too much. Okay.
So anyways,
is that the guy we've kind of forgotten about here? Is like, if we just kind of all assume that Luis Arraez is not coming back.
Oh, I don't think I've assumed that.
It's like we hear about all these first base solutions and options and DH thing. Like, well, there's that dude sitting there. You know,
that's me speaking it into existence. How about Lowe? How about Rhys Hoskins? How about, hey, this grab bag of Sheets, Sung-Mun Song, and Luis Campusano? Let's go with that. That's me maybe hoping that and Luis is an incredible guy. I just don't love the fit. So
if you can get 350 hitting Luis Arraez back, yeah,
sure, yeah,
by all means, I'll take that. I don't know if that guy still exists. He's had some injuries. Body's wearing down a little bit. I don't know. I don't know if that's ever going to come back fully. But I'm not sure.
What about Will Myers? Can Will Myers play first?
He probably still could. I don't think that's why they signed him. But, you know, He has played there before. Remember when he went to 2016, went to the All-Star game, first baseman. They had him DH in that game, but he was playing first for the Padres that year. And by the way, I love the fact that Will is back in the mix.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Love it. I always liked
Bud
Will
Black.
Myers.
Yeah.
Always loved Will Myers just because he, as we've talked about, man, that dude grinded. He put everything he had. Now, sometimes he put it in the wrong places, but he gave everything he had to trying to be a great baseball player to this team, to this city. I was so happy for him when they finally got to the playoffs in 2020 because he had so many years of just garbage around him where he was looked at to be the savior, the only person who could actually do anything offensively in this entire lineup. He's got so many experiences that he can then share with young players as they're coming up. They struggled with this. I guarantee you, if it's injury, if it's ineffectiveness, if it's self-doubt, if it's anything that can haunt a young ball player, Will Myers has experienced it and come out on the other side of it. So that's a great asset to have for a lot of young players as they try to navigate their way through their professional careers. Kudos to Will for coming back.
Yes, for sure. He and Bud Black, I think that's going to be awesome. I'm sure, you or I will be able to catch up with them at some point in spring training, which will be really, really cool. And excited to see how that evolves with Will Myers and Bud Black. I think we even mentioned him just, before Stammen put together his staff, just seems like a no-brainer to have around, given his connections to San Diego, who he is, where he is at this stage of his career. Probably not somebody got to look over your shoulder, wondering if they're trying to be a bigger voice than you or what their aspirations are. It just seems like somebody you should have, given that he's no longer in Colorado, and so I'm glad that all worked out.
He's a great baseball guy, and he's just a great guy. He really is. It's a wonderful asset to have, again, because he's been through 20-something years of being a big league manager. He's won a World Series as a pitching coach and as a player. He's been there. He knows what the pitfalls of the season are. He knows where they are and how to avoid them. And remember, he was between San Diego and Colorado. He was never given a great roster to work with. He really never was. The closest thing he probably had to that was 2007 when he took over that team and took him to game 163. Ever since, he did not have a truly competitive, superstar-laden roster at any point in his career after that. And he took the Rockies to the playoffs twice. He dragged that sad franchise up into the postseason. So he's a great baseball guy. And to have him around just to pick his brain about things, to have him share all that knowledge. Plus, he's an Aztec. He's an Aztec. In fact, his number, a lot of people don't know this, his number is retired by San Diego State. You know what number he wore at SDSU?
No.
19. Oh. So Tony went back to coaching, and Buddy's like, yeah, you can have it. You're Tony freaking Gwynn. So number 19 is retired by the Aztecs, but by Bud Black, because Tony didn't wear number 19 at SDSU. So it's kind of a fun little story.
Yeah. Sorry, I just got distracted by something I saw. It sounds like there might be some Kyle Tucker to the Mets news that pops up. We'll see. Nothing that makes me feel confident in yes, this is happening. At Padres Talk, Steve Cohen just confirmed Tucker to the Mets. Cohen just tweeted, "Let me know when you see smoke." So we'll see. We'll see what that means.
Conclave reference.
I think so. I think that's what that is. Also, some chatter about your boy Bob Nightingale saying that Nick Castellanos could be a fit for the Padres, and that the Phillies might eat some of that money. So
to play what?
That's a very good question, because that's where my mind goes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, just to DH. Just to DH, if the Phillies can use some of that money, sure.
Yeah.
Although again, let's go back to I would rather have Teoscar Hernandez. I'm going to be completely honest. If you're going to go that route.
And how much money are the Dodgers going to eat of that contract?
$19 million of the 20.
Deal. Castellanos 694 OPS last year. He's had a rough couple years. 2022, same deal. 788 in 2023, bit of a bounce back, but really since a 939, 34 home run season. Had 29 homers in 2023, 17 last year.
Yeah, but also, how much better of a hitter's park is Citizens Bank than Petco. If
Hmm.
he's not hitting there, what makes anyone think he's going to hit here?
Yeah.
That's when I
Maybe
would be like, that reeks of Nelson Cruz to me.
maybe a DH platoon situation.
I don't know about that. It just scares me to have a DH platoon in the first place. I mean, unless it's, unless you're
Throw
talking
Matt.
about one, if it's a DH first base platoon where one guy, where they're both in the lineup consistently, but they're switching defensive positions. Okay, I'm cool with that. But
It can't be as bad as Matt Carpenter and Nelson Cruz.
see, that's what Castellanos feels like to me. A guy who, great name, has had success. Last couple of years has not been the same guy, and it's kind of been masked in that lineup because of what Kyle Schwarber was doing, what Bryce Harper was doing, what Trey Turner was doing. You got some other major bats in that lineup. Now, he was big in the postseason. He had a couple great postseasons, but throughout the regular season, he's not done a whole lot the last couple of years. So I think we're kind of remembering and treading on what we remember of him, but he has not been great the last few years.
Yeah. He is not. He is not. And so I think that's another one of those situations where you're hoping they find some old version of themselves, and that is not
How old is he now?
33.
Yeah, he's that's still in your prime.
Yeah. He can find it, certainly. Yes. There's no doubt. But I don't, yeah.
Yeah, but
That's, I would be a little skeptical.
With that hitting coach, with that offensive mindset, with that lineup around him, with that ballpark.
Yeah.
Man. If it's not working there, I don't know. I'm not sure how it's going to work here.
Anything else before we wrap it up?
I don't think so.
No? I think we covered a lot.
Yeah, I think we're good. You have anything else? Yeah. Anything else from Barry Bloom? Break?
No, nothing else. I had my list of items, and I think we have exhausted them all, and I'm glad we did. This was a fun conversation, kind of bouncing around a little bit, and you never know when it's going to get real quiet this time of year. And this is one of those weeks where had enough little tidbits and then the Barry Bloom piece to pop up to get us through 57 minutes with no problem here. So
yeah, but Darnay, how do you feel about the Bears? We bookend this thing. When you read that, what was your initial thought?
There's always a part of me that feels like I'm not one with anything to just write it off and be like, there's no way that's never happening. I'm the type of person, I think this is just my general nature, to be a little bit concerned and to imagine the worst case scenario. That's probably the best way. I am probably somebody who does the worst case scenario exercise. And so, but I do think that there's a lot of things would have to happen, and they seem far-fetched for that to be the case. And then I think the overarching part of that is like, we don't even know if this is all like a Joe Lacob thing. We don't even know if, he really actually pursues the franchise. And so I think we are maybe getting a bit ahead of ourselves. And not to say that this couldn't come to fruition. Again, that's why there is that kind of fear. But if you ask me now, like, do you think Joe Lacob's going to buy the franchise and he's going to immediately move them or wait until 2033 or 2034 and move them? Probably not. But will I be a little bit worried about it until then? Yeah. 3% worried.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the state of the world.
3% worried about a lot of things these days.
3% worried. Sometimes it's 30% worried. Sometimes it's 93% worried. But yes. Okay, so let's leave this on a positive note. As we know, the Padres are not going anywhere for at least 8 years. And therefore, we have at least 8 years to win a World Series. And I will guarantee you, before that 8 years is over, the Padres will at least be in a World Series.
I like that.
By 2033, the Padres will be in a World Series. There's something going to click here at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the 16-year-old Cuban shortstop they signed today is going to be the difference in 2032.
Can't wait to see what they get for him in 2028 at the trade deadline. Well, I'm glad. The good positive note, good way to end it. Something to look forward to. Great being with you. Appreciate everybody in the chat, everybody watching, everybody listening. We will catch up with you next week.